This is a homage beat.
The spiritual truth plays out in a physical reality. The prime example is how we deal with our trash. Most don't even give a second thought about our trash. We don't care about buying things we don't need, nor do we care about littering. Our apathy probably comes from not immediately seeing the consequences of our actions. Even now, most have no clue that the world's largest landfill is floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
I say men are dead to the effects of their mismanagement of garbage, their mismanagement of garbage has on nature. Likewise, men are dead to the fact that nature was created by a creator. Men are also dead to the fact that they will what suffer for how they mismanage nature. From a naturalistic perspective, I say Earth is deteriorating before our eyes. The pollution in the air and water and things the things don't seem to be getting better. However, from a biblical worldview, the consequences are far more frightening. I say most people have a false view of Jesus and view him as this mild mannered teacher who always like carried a sheep. Like, what do you think most people what is Jesus primarily known for teaching, whether that's you or just how other people perceive him?
I mean, when I've heard it before, I've heard a lot of people say, like, in just different sermons, that Jesus talked about money a lot. I never really heard that or really took the time to research that Jesus talked about hell more than any other teacher. So I thought that was really, really interesting for you to go into that point, man. And you started talking about the Gehenna. Is that that was an actual place, right?
Yeah.
So was that a place like a city people live? Like, was Jesus doing that to talk literally, or?
So he was drawn because, and the reason that I asked you that is because most people and that was a good one because I didn't even think Jesus did talk a lot about money, even with the parables that he gave. I think a lot of other people associate just talking about love or forgiveness or these things where they see him as this mild mannered individual. Not to say that he wasn't, but Jesus said some harsh things to people, whether it was to the Pharisees or just those who were listening. And like you said, if you study scripture, you really don't see the mention of hell too much in the Old Testament, too much at all. But once you get to the New Testament, especially in the Gospels, that's the first time you see a mentioning of hell, and it's what Jesus talking about hell. But when you read it in its Greek, the word used for hell is Gehenna, and Gehenna was like a literal physical place. It continually burned. It was actually a landfill.
Okay.
And so again, going back to the chapter of the book, that I'm not just pulling these things out of thin air, that I know the biblical truth that I'm trying to convey, but I'm making you look at this objectively. So that's why we went through all this. Like I said, now we kind of get into the punch where I've built up that we've got to deal with trash. And not only do we have to deal with trash, the characteristics of trash are the same characteristics of man. That trash must be dealt with. So Jesus is talking to these people, saying, hey, those who are worthless, those who are vile, those who are dead in their sins will go to Gehenna. Gehenna is a landfill. Jesus saying, you the trash that I'm going to take out to the landfill, which is Gehenna, that continually burns. So what? Again, the title of the book is Using Known Concepts to Reveal Eternal Truths. Jesus did that. He used the known concept, Gehenna, which was a physical landfill that continually burned, and he pointed to eternal truth. What? And this time, the truth was hell. And like I said, right in the book, it's like I wanted to tackle these hard things that I didn't want to gloss over certain things, because I easily could have left a chapter like this out because, I don't want to offend people. I don't want to have to talk about hell, I talk about other things, I talk about judgment and God's wrath, but I kind of talk about it, just sprinkle it in. But I got a whole chapter kind of devoted to, hey, man, this is what happens to trash. And I'm making kind of a bold statement. You the trash.
Yeah, man.
Trash is going to get taken out.
I never think you had to mirror that. I think you did a good job in showing that, like saying Jesus was a guy walked around with a sheep, but he spoke in this way. He had to tell that truth. So I think it was cool, to take the. I mean, it's a tough chapter. I mean, you're calling out people for things that we call ourselves. We boast in ourselves. We think that we're great. We think we're this. Somebody tell us that we're like trash, and we make that comparison. It's like,
Like,
Bro,
who you think you're talking to?
You ain't talking to me.
And
though,
again,
so
this is not Brandon. Yeah. These are things that I've got to come with myself. This is Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus saying what? What I'm trying to think of one where it's like, don't fear man, who can destroy the body. Fear God, who can destroy both body and soul and hell. But the word that he used for hell is what Gehenna.
Yeah.
And so he's telling this to the people, and people are like, whoa.
That's interesting because like that's a real place. Like, you gonna throw me in Gehenna? Like, it's kind of like, that's terrible. So. Yeah, but that's wisdom though for him to see it. Though.
And again, because he's like an excellent teacher, and so he's knowing. I know my audience. My audience knows this landfill called Gehenna. Like, we don't know like any landfills around Raleigh or anything like that. But if there was a landfill that continually burned and that most people knew about it, and Jesus is saying, "Yo, that's where you go." The imagery of that would like be kind of crazy to think about. So that's what he was comparing hell to. This landfill that continually burned, and he was saying, who are the people who go there? What, the people who don't care about the earth, the people who are trash, the people who are worthless. Like I said, worthless not in regards to your value, but your purpose. We don't take care of the earth, and again, we think it's something so small. Oh, I lit it here and there. You know, I'm wasteful. I do all these things. We don't think much of it, but no, you've been given charge of the earth, and not only that, it's like we're worthless, we're vile, we're dead in our sin. And it's like, these are harsh truths to grasp. You know, for me, like I said, it was hard in the sense that I've never heard nobody talk like that. When I heard someone preaching the gospel, I was like, I've never heard this before. But if I was going to be honest, it's like, I know I wasn't living right. Yeah. I know I wasn't doing, and like I said, I wasn't like, and again, what we do is we compare ourselves to another human being. And it's like, that's not who I'm going to be judged by. I'm going to be judged by God. Yeah. Like, we talk, because like I said, we mainly don't think about our garbage because it doesn't affect us. Yeah. How self-centered is that? Like, to only care about things that affect us. Yeah. But yet we want other people to care about our things. Yeah. You know how backwards and twisted that thinking is. But it's like, we think the sun, the moon, the stars revolve around us. Yeah. It don't. You know, and that's a hard truth to come to the knowledge with. And again, like I said, I have these quotes that I think, man, they're so good. But this one, I say this, and I'll explain it further. I say this. I say, if one does not respect their creator, they will not respect nature, animals, or other people. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And the reason that I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I think it's a very bold statement, because I'm kind of saying that those people who don't believe in God don't care about nature, animals, or other people. And if I'm going to be honest, I think that is the point that I'm making. But someone who's an atheist would say, hey, I do care about nature, hey, I do care about people, and I do care about animals. But if your worldview doesn't start about caring about the creator, you cannot actually really truly live that out and communicate that. What are your thoughts on a comment like that? Because I say it's actual cause and effect. If I really don't care about God, I don't care about his creation.
I mean, I think there's some significant basis to your quote. I mean, because if you don't believe in the creator, or you're not doing it for the creator, and you say you care about something, and you do, like, I argue back, like, as an atheist, like, okay, like, if I'm an atheist and I say, well, I do care, but it's like, why do you care? Are you caring for your own benefit? Mm-hmm. Does it benefit you? Does it benefit your family? But if you are looking at it from the point of, like, I'm doing it because of the creator, I'm not doing it for my own benefit. Mm-hmm. This is for the creator that created and gave me the responsibility. So, I like the quote. That's coming from me, but I mean, I think it has significant basis to it. That it's a bold statement. It is. Yeah. It can be. It's a very bold statement, but that's what kind of chapter this is when you're talking about. You go into the scriptures and you're using these terms. You're not coming. I don't think you got to that based on something you thought. You looked at the word, the scriptures, and you took it and you went with it, and you had to make that bold statement. There, so. And
so I think that was a good response that you said, because for someone to say, hey, I don't believe in God, but I still respect nature, I still respect animals, I still respect people, the question is, what is your foundation for that? And like you said, is it yourself? So essentially you argue for a morality, a sense of right and wrong, a sense of altruism, but where does that come from? You know, how come you're like that and then there's other people who are not? You know, what makes you different than the person who doesn't care about it? And then not only that, it's like who perfectly does this? So you may care about animals, you may care about nature, you may care about other people, but have you done that perfectly?
Yeah.
You haven't done that perfectly. And so
Yeah.
that's what I would say to them. But I give, again, this was a really, a lot of research was done into this, but I give facts. I give statistics. I say, here's one, here's a couple actually. I say people do not respect nature, and the statistics prove the statistics show people don't respect animals either. There are several troubling statistics in regards to animal abuse. Here are just two. I say 100 million sharks are killed annually just for their fins. Fishermen have no need to keep the whole shark alive, therefore they just throw them back into the water. Without their fins, they're unable to swim and slowly sink to the bottom of the sea and die. Another example is the honeybee industry. Use of bees. Over 1 billion bees are exterminated every year because it's not worthwhile for farmers to winterize the hives.
Yeah.
The Bible teaches that men have dominion over animals,
Uh-huh.
but never advocates the abuse of the animals. And again, thinking of somebody's response, I say even the sacrificial system mentioned in the Old Testament honored the animal being sacrificed. That it wasn't just blatant killing of an animal. That it was a sacred time. There were certain rules and regulations that you had to follow in order to sacrifice an animal. But I say the abuse of animals is terrible, but it pales into the comparison to the abuse of humans. Statistics, according to the U.S. State Department, show that 600,000 to 800,000 people are trafficked across international borders every year. In the United States, it's between 14,500 and 17,500 people that are trafficked each year. These statistics are simply a glimpse at the depravity that is present in the world. If people don't respect their creator, they won't respect nature, animals, or other humans. The testimony against man is appalling, and Scripture describes this very reality. Again, even if you do not come from a biblical worldview, you can just look at the statistics on how people treat nature with their garbage, how they treat animals. And like I said, I'm not the biggest animal lover in the world, but I know you don't abuse animals.
Yeah.
But if we look at the statistic, that's what people do. People abuse animals. And not only do they abuse animals, they abuse other people. How does someone answer why this is? And I say you really can't. No other worldview has a problem except the biblical worldview. A biblical worldview says what? Men, and it's funny because I like watch TV shows and I always try to pick up on these cues. There's a lot of people who would say one is not born evil, but the Scripture argues otherwise. You are born evil, and it's like it's not. Like I said, I don't want to take away the nurture aspect of it. I think your evil may manifest itself in different ways depending on how you were brought up.
Yeah.
But we all evil. Our evil may not look like the next man, but I still do wrong. But again, I say, it must be reiterated that the problem is not what? Garbage. The problem is the heart of man. Man's heart is what? Wicked and evil. And there's only one thing that can change it. I say in addition to mentioning that men are worthless, violent, spiritually dead, I said there's another attribute used to describe them. This is Job 25:56. It says, "Behold, the moon is not bright." And this is kind of, because I read one earlier from Job, and this is kind of like a parallel. It's kind of saying the same thing, but it uses different adjectives. So if it sounds familiar, that's why. It says, "Behold, even